Hello and welcome to our first live for this week of Puja Purification Road Opening that we will be doing with our community Panchakarma. And we're going to bring in a special download today. I'm going to go ahead and get the comments here so I can see them as people roll in. I just want to give a couple minutes in case anybody does show up. We're going to dive into a little collective download just to sort of set the tone for this Panchakarma and also set our reality tunnel for this week. I got quite the download that came in unexpectedly, bringing in a little dragon's blood here. Hello, Jennifer. Jennifer is one of our newest members here at Broadcom, and thank you so much for being a member. I'm so glad I get to give you a shout out and that you're here for this. It's wonderful to have you, and I'm really excited to kick this off. I'm just giving a couple minutes for people to show up. I'm going to bring in some dragon's blood here. Dragon's blood is really wonderful for purification. It's also a blessing resin, so it helps to encourage the favor of fortune and just clears out all the heaviness and lower vibrational energies. I'm gonna call in some Reiki too. If you don't wish to receive it, that's okay. Just say no thank you. But if you do wish to receive it, just say yes and open yourself to it. And I just want to sort of seal this off as we start our journey. And we're going to talk Panchakarma, yes, but I kind of want to dive into this download first. And we'll dive into the collective read first, and then we'll sort of close out with the details about this week of Panchakarma. Clear out that energy. How are you doing today, Jennifer? Let's see here. Okay, listening in on the slide, listening in on the slide. That's all good. That's all good. I'm glad you could make it. All right. Well, I think this is, oh, wonderful. Oh, well, that should be wonderful to just get away and drop in with the grandkids. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, so I think we're going to just dive right into this download. Without further ado, people will make it as they're able to. And if you don't make it until you come to the replay, that's fine too. All right, we're just going to bring this in, and I'm going to start out with a little collective read to set our reality tunnel for our Panchakarma Puja week. And we got quite a download coming in with this one, and it's all about the celestial vermilion bird uprising. It was interesting because I was wondering what was going to come in next for us after last week's, where we had to find a gold item, and the gold item was speaking of something within us that's in need of alchemy, that's in need of transformation. And so I was wondering what next? And it was pretty wild because I all of a sudden got this message came in about Vermilion. And I was Vermilion, and it was like, yes, the next thing is to seek out the Vermilion. And I was like, the Vermilion. Now this is multi-layered, and I'm going to be bringing in a lot of stuff around the Stone of Destiny quest in regard to Vermilion. I'm not going to go into that in this particular download, but do look for that to be coming in. But there's a little bit of a tie-in here with that, okay? And so I knew the vermilion was like a shade of red. It's a very almost like orangey, fiery red. And I thought, okay, seek out vermilion. Well, that makes sense, I thought, with Panchakarma Week, because in Panchakarma Week, we're really looking at activating the transformational fire. We're looking at really stoking the Agni and transforming mind, body, spirit, and moving ourselves into that liquid fire state. So I thought, okay, that makes sense. But I went and I searched vermilion, and the first thing that came up was the celestial vermilion bird. And I thought, what is this? Okay, because here's the deal. We always get some kind of totem medicine that comes in to guide the Panchakarma experience, at least when I'm leading Panchakarma. That's because I bring in a lot of my root medicine. So it's just something I work with. I work with the medicine wheel. I work with totems. I work with this energy on a daily basis. So naturally, when I'm holding space for Panchakarma, this comes in. And I was like, what's the celestial vermilion bird? I had never even heard about it. So what I came to learn is it's so in harmony with our Panchakarma that I love that this is coming in. And it also feeds off last week's reality tunnel where we had to find the gold item. So the celestial vermilion bird is one of the 5 heavenly beasts in Taoism. And it represents 5 cardinal directions, 5 cycles of manifestation, of key in the stages of transformation. And I thought, oh, this is perfect because Panchakarma means 5 actions of purification. Those 5 heavenly beasts each represent one of the 5 cardinal points, okay? And the celestial vermilion bird is one of those heavenly beasts. So I just thought that this was so perfect. And what is it associated with? It's associated with the element of fire. It's associated with the direction south. And I thought, oh, this is so perfect because it feeds right into Panchakarma, okay? Because we're looking to really call that fire forward. We're looking to stoke the Agni, the fire of transformation, and offer up what is needing to be transformed on that pyre of Agni. So just the parallels were brilliant. And Panchakarma is 5 actions of purification to clear karma, okay? And I just thought this is so beautiful because it's a real road opening. And when I thought of the road opening piece, it made me think of the medicine wheel and the direction of south and the fire element that we normally associate with the direction of south when we're looking in terms of fairy shamanism, all right? And in order to really open up the road that leads to the north, that leads to the hummingbird medicine. So here we go. We got another bird reference coming in, a lot of bird totem coming in with this particular week of puja, purification, Panchakarma. We had red-tailed hawk came in last night, as always does. And then we have this celestial vermilion bird today, and also the north direction that gets opened up when we activate that south opening of the medicine wheel, which is associated with hummingbird medicine, La Chuparosa, rose sucker. You know, the rose sucker is what Chuparosa means, and Chuparosa extracts the sweetness from the rose. So it's like ojas, the nectar of life. And that's what we're really looking to do with Panchakarma as well. We're looking to really build up, build up. There's a lot of pollen in the air, so you'll have to excuse me from time to time. I'm getting a little bit of like dry throat, so I might have a little interruption in my speech here and there. It's been quite intense this year with the pollen. So what we're looking to do with that is we're looking to build the ojas, and the ojas is the nectar of life. Hello, good to see you, Boondock. We're looking to build that ojas, the nectar of life. And the nectar of life is said to be very, very precious. We're said to only have 4 drops of ojas that are held within the chamber of our heart, okay? And they're what give us that sense of vitality, that sense of fullness, that sense of verdant land, okay, which is the spirit of kapha, all right? So I love this about opening up the road so we can get to the sweetness, so we can get to the ojas, so we can get to the nectar of life and just all the symbolism that comes in. So I wanted to talk a little bit excuse me, about that vermilion bird. And it's interesting because look at this. The incense went out again. This particular incense is having trouble lighting, and that's what we're needing to do right now. Collectively, we're really needing to bring the fire forward. A lot of people are struggling with this at this time, getting the fires stoked. You know, a lot of people have been expressing that they're feeling a kind of heaviness or a lethargy and apathy, and that they're having difficulty just generating energy to change what needs to be changed in their life, to take the actions they need to take in order to step into that transformation that's required to really step into the North Node. And we are dealing with a little sluggish energy right now, too. We have to remember we're sandwiched in between eclipses, okay? Yeah, sadness, too, okay? The closing of karmic cycles, a lot of that is related to that Libra full moon that we just had. And that Libra full moon is all about, you know, dealing with that, looking at the karmic cycle that we're closing and looking at the aspects of it as well that we haven't looked at yet, okay? The stuff that we swept under the rug. We have to look at that because it was a lunar eclipse. It wasn't just a full moon, it was a lunar eclipse. It's also kicking off eclipse season and went down in pre-shadow for Mercury retrograde. As of the beginning of April, we'll be heading into Mercury retrograde officially, okay? So there's also that slow down energy and that looking back energy. So it's like looking back one more time, right? Before we turn toward our future. But we also have the new moon in Aries coming up on the 8th. And so that's also a total solar eclipse. So we're sandwiched in between eclipses with a Mercury retrograde, you know, in the middle for the meat of our sandwich there. And it's going to create that kind of vibe, this sort of draggy energy. It's like right at the time when we need to stir everything up and quicken everything so we can move forward. We're feeling the sense of sluggishness. We're feeling the impact of the grief of the old cycles we're closing, and we're feeling all that heavy energy. But that's very much in tandem with excess kapha, okay? So we're looking to clear out kapha accumulation this week, big time. And if you need that course that gives you directions on the steps you need to take, you can find that at my blog, and it's at rootsayurveda.blogspot.com. And I'll post the link on this video later after we get through with the live, okay? So you can easily access that. Right now, weeks 1 and 2 are up. Week 1 is sort of like a preparatory week, and then week 2 is the week that we're going live for right now, and that's actual puja purification week, okay? So you can get all the details. I lead you through it step by step by step, and we'll open up with a reading or whatever drop-in wants to come in for the collective as we move through this week, okay? This is the first one, and we'll do a reading, you know, we'll dive into that, and then we'll close out the live with opportunity to drop in, ask questions, any questions you have about the Panchakarma, any questions you have about certain things you're experiencing in relation to doing the work. So it's an opportunity to come in, get support, ask the questions, get guidance, and also just share your experiences, bring your voice into the mix, okay? So I thought that this was really interesting, you know, I was having trouble getting this lit today, all right? So that just shows sort of like the experience of where the collective is at right now. Like the fire's been snuffed, like a lot of people are really burned out, right? A lot of people are very much overwhelmed. A lot of people are speaking of this not knowing how to go forward. Like, what is my next step? You think about it, you know, fire can be like a torch. It lights the way forward. And so all of this is sort of indicative of the collective template as far as where we're at on a frequency level, okay? And it makes sense. We're closing up a heavy cycle, and we also have to be mindful that we're moving through that age of Kali Yuga. And when we're moving through the Kali Yuga, it is a time of great apathy. It's a time of laziness, all the tamasic qualities, as they call it in Ayurveda, the more heavy, kind of sluggish sort of qualities take over, much like kapha accumulation, okay? So there really is a need to digest these things and clear out this energy. It is kapha nature also to just be kind of bogged down like that. You know, too much kapha in the body, which is easy to accumulate through the winter season, can lead to a feeling of like moving through quicksand. Okay. Now you pair that with closing heavy karmic cycles. You pair that with, you know, also dealing with the age of the Kali Yuga when the tamasic qualities are prevalent, and it's just the natural inclination to sort of throw in the towel and give up right at the time when we actually need to be more like working that fire, you know, and working it in such a focused way. Sometimes, yes, internalized to clear the road within, but we're also needing to step into more of that expansion to help greet the new way into being that's coming in with the dawning of the age of Aquarius, okay? So it's interesting because the vermilion bird, right, is associated with this fire element. And so naturally, you know, you got this brilliant vermilion, fiery, red, orange bird associated with fire and that south energy. And it automatically evokes sort of that spirit of the phoenix, right? The phoenix rising. And there's only associative, you know, similarities between the phoenix and the celestial vermilion bird. They're two totally different entities, okay? So the phoenix is more associated with earthly matters, like when we get dealt a raw hand of fate and then everything in our life kind of comes undone and we have to figure out how to get it back together again. And we got to be like the comeback kid, and we got to get in the fight and figure out how to overcome our physical, material limitations in our life. That's more phoenix rising energy. Whereas the celestial vermilion bird deals with more celestial matters. Okay, so it's talking more about spiritual rebirth. And that's really what people are needing right now. They're needing that inspiration, the enthusiasm, the stoking of the spirit, okay, the inner fire of transformation that can lift the consciousness and illuminate the way forward out of that place of all the heaviness that's been bogging us down in our consciousness, right? Because so much of the collective is in this place of almost being dull-minded, okay? That's another quality of the age of Kali Yuga. The mind becomes just congested to the point that it just shuts down, right? And we're meant to overcome that inertia. That's the whole challenge of the Kali Yuga. Can we instead embrace what is being destroyed? Can we instead embrace what is being torn down? Can we accept the tower? Can we accept the tower is actually the seed of our rising? Can we accept that what is being exposed, though it's harsh, it's a liberation because it's freeing us from that which is not true? And we see it happening on a global level, right? I mean, it's happening all around us. I mean, it's even happening with celebrity culture, right? Everything is being dismantled right now. All the false idols are coming down. All of these sort of like markers of what it means to be abundant, successful, to have achieved, all of it is being dismantled right now. We're looking at things in a new way. And yet we're so used to being programmed in this way. We're so used to being in this collective consciousness of reaching for more, grabbing for more, you know, this greed consciousness about there's not enough for everybody, that naturally it's only natural that at this point so much of the collective would be sitting here bemoaning their karmic cycles and the things that they have to release and let go. It's just natural. And that in and of itself, when we look at it from more of a celestial mindset, okay, than an earthly mindset with the power of transformation that this celestial vermilion bird brings in, it brings forward more of a need to recognize that when we hoard the experiences of our past, when we become overly attached to what spirit is asking us to release, that this too is a certain sort of greed, because it creates a state of stagnancy in your life. And you're here to bring your creative fire forward, your created energy forward. That's what blazes the trail into the golden age that comes after the Kali Yuga. And this is a test. And we're all being asked to be present and to show up for it. And in order to show up for it, we need to come from a place of non-attachment. Non-attachment doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you're in a place of radical acceptance. It's pointless to nurse the sadness. It's pointless at this point to stay stuck in regurgitating what has come to a close. It won't serve you. And in fact, it can be quite a further limitation to moving into the expansion that is on offer. If you can, yes, allow yourself to process what you feel. This is important. It's important to acknowledge your grief, to give it expression. It's important to let out your rage. Whatever you are experiencing that you've been holding in, it's so important. And as you move through this week of Panchakarma and you start working with clearing the road within, all right, getting the ama moving, that which is undigested, and you start working with these methods of purification, this stuff is going to bubble up, okay? And it's good. It's good to recognize it. It's good to feel it. It's good to experience it. But we're meant to let it just kind of flow through us, right? So that's why we're going to be doing the work on the physical to clear the blockages, so we can invite in that new kind of a higher elevated state of consciousness, clear out all the congested BS in the way we're viewing things, the window and the grid we're looking through, how we're programming our reality tunnel, so we can start to get our vision activated. We get our vision activated, and once we get our vision activated, then we got something to work with, you know? We can merge that with our creative fire to blaze a new trail. We can merge it with our feelings, our emotions, our sense of investment in that, to nurture that to growth that leads to the fruition. But before we can do that, we got to clear it, right? We got to clear the road. So that's what this energy is here to help us do. It's help us to work within this framework of this particular cycle of transformation. So I wanted to bring a little bit of this in and talk about what that cycle of creation looks like in terms of these 5 heavenly beasts and these 5 cardinal directions and the flow that they enter into, so you can understand the role that the vermilion bird holds within that. So I'm just going to speak of this cycle of creation for a moment here, just so you can touch base on it. In the cycle of creation, wood feeds fire. Fire, which is associated with the vermilion bird, creates earth, ash, okay? So isn't that interesting? It creates earth through ash. So earth is how things grow. Earth is what sustains us. Earth is that pentacles energy. Earth is the north node of destiny. It's that ace of pentacles. It's that seed to plant for the future that can grow new things, right? So it's interesting that it comes through as ash in that respect, because when we look at ash, we think of destruction, right? We think of what's been lost. And this is providing a key for that ace of pentacles. It's in the destruction of what you're mourning, of what you're releasing, of the karmic cycle that's closing, that the new is being born. So this is that thing where there's like a Zen parable, and it talks about, you know, laughing and celebrating and being in the same state, whether you're going through loss or whether you're going through gain, because it's all the same trip. And within the loss, there's still, the seeds of the new beginning. And this is not whitewashing, okay? It's not whitewashing what you're feeling. It's not ignoring what you're feeling. But it's important that we learn how to be present with what we're processing, present with our emotions, rather than getting stuck in them, mired in them. Because when we cling to the emotional states, what we're doing is we're being in this place of self-indulgence. And the more that we move into a place of self-indulgence, it actually separates us from the unity consciousness. And that's why we get all these blockages in our lives. That's why we have such a hard time releasing the emotions when a relationship ends, or we have to head in a new career direction, or we have to move to a new home, something radically changes in our lives, because we become attached to what we're losing. It's a sense of greed. We feel like, well, there goes my happiness. Now there's nothing left for me. Instead of trusting that we are always supported, and what is leaving has served its purpose, and in that space there's some newness that's going to be born. And yes, to feel the emotion, but not to get entangled in it, not to be ruled by it, to let it flow through you. And the way we do that, and the most effective way to clear out a karmic cycle like that, is to go right into the center of it instead of sweeping it under the rug, which means you confront it directly, head on. That's very fire energy. That's very pitta. To face it head on. No, we're not going to sweep it under the rug. I'm not going to numb myself out. I'm not going to turn to my vices. No, in fact, I'm going to drop in this week, and I'm really going to be present with what I'm feeling. I'm not going to run from it anymore. And when the feelings hit, I'm going to experience them. I'm going to let them flow through my body. And I'm going to work it out of my tissues with some gua sha. I'm going to work it out of my tissues with some abhyanga. I'm going to work it out of my tissues with a workout, I'm going to hold space for what I'm feeling. And I'm going to be present with it in the moment. And once my emotions are released in that moment, then I focus on the next moment, okay? So we don't stay stuck there. We don't allow ourselves to move into that place where now we totally disengage from life. We cut ourselves off at the neck. We stop having the in-bodied experience. We start having a heady experience where we're not even connected to our reality anymore. And then we're wondering why we don't feel supported in our day-to-day reality. I love it. Oh, I play guitar too. Yeah, that's one of my goals, is to get back to my practice time and have more time for that. It's a great way to, channel the energy too, and also express what we're feeling. Yep, working out, that's mine too. That's another thing for me as well. And working out is a great way to move the energy as well. It really is, so greet that however it feels most comfortable for you, okay? When it comes to moving your body this week, you don't have to overdo it, right? You don't have to push yourself too hard. And in fact, if you do feel like you need to rest, especially as you're releasing a lot of emotions, let yourself rest, okay? This is very important when we're doing this purification work, okay? But this is what you can do, yeah, cry it out if you need to, have a temper tantrum if you need to, as you're closing out this old stuff that you're hanging on to, but then get the energy moving. Don't just stay mired in that stagnancy, wallowing, okay? That's when you really, clog up your channels of creativity. Instead, have the emotional release, and then, yeah, take it for a walk, or put on some music, dance it out, in your living room. Or if you need something more gentle, do some yoga, or even just be kind to yourself, move it out of your tissues, give yourself, an abhyanga, self-massage, all right? And if you need any more guidance about directions, how to do that stuff, if you look on the Panchakarma playlists that are here on the homepage, I got all kinds of previous videos that go into different techniques from when we've done Panchakarmas before. So you'll want to look at the Aries point one, because that's the one that's in alignment with kapha season, okay? The other one, own your fires, for pitta season, coming up in the summer, which is interesting because this vermilion bird actually represents the season of summer. So I feel like summer is going to be a real time of quickening for the collective. There's going to be so much that's going to be coming in the summertime. And I feel like we really need to work with this fire energy to clear the way and move out this stagnant energy, because I think people got really stuck in all that Scorpio, South Node energy. We had such a heavy Pluto influence, Pluto and Mars, really, okay? Both the Scorpio's rulers, and also Mars is, Aries ruler. So we got Aries in the North Node now, which is now looking at transforming all that South Node energy, all the heavy Pluto energy we moved through. And now we're really balancing those scales with Libra, okay? So we got to unload, man. We got to unload. It's time to really travel light, it's time to drop the baggage. It's time to clear it out. The more that you can accept and move into that place of radical acceptance, or what I call, the yes, just saying, yes, this is what happened. Yes is acceptance of what happened. It doesn't help to wish it to be other than it was. It really is counterproductive also to look at the other side of the scale, in terms of, well, what's going to be the karma of the people who hurt me, or focusing on karmics and all this nonsense actually is a distraction. It actually takes you out of the present. It limits your effectiveness to be an agent of change in your life and to step up into a position of self-mastery in your life, because you're dividing your energy as soon as you do that. All right. The more you can stay present, the more you stay in a unity consciousness. And you shouldn't be concerned about what somebody else's repercussions are for their actions or their path. Why are you concerned with somebody else's spiritual path? It's about being concerned about your own path and how you're rising up to meet the road before you. Okay, so all of that doesn't serve. And it actually isn't really what karma is about anyway. And it's a bunch of drama, right? That kind of keeps you stuck. So it's time to stop focusing on what is going on with so-and-so over there, or how are they going to pay for what they did to me. If you can flip it and look at it in a different way, you're going to experience more rapid transformation and moving through these heavy cycles. If you can look at it more from the standpoint of, it's because I went through this difficult experience with this person that it required me to actually value myself more, or required me to look at a truth that I wasn't willing to see before, or required me to stand up in my power, or taught me how to have boundaries, or whatever lesson you learned from that particular individual and that difficult experience. Then you're working with the energy in a constructive way. This will balance the scales for you a lot quicker than worrying about how somebody else is going to pay for the role they played in your mutually shared situation. You both came to each other's paths as teachers. You came to teach each other. Hello, Mystic Shaman Sage. So happy to see you, okay? It's pointless. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. It doesn't matter. And yet it's where the collective is stuck. It's where the collective is stuck. It rules the algorithm. You can see it. All you have to do is, in Tarot land, just scroll. Just scroll your feed and you will see it. Everything is about karmics doing this, karmics doing that. What's going to be their karma for hurting you? Okay. So this is why we're in such a state of a mess at this time. Because nobody's minding their own road. Nobody's minding their own work. Of course you got a roadblock. Of course you feel stuck. Of course you don't find a way forward. Of course. You're worried about everybody else's ways forward. You're worried about everybody else's work. It's silly. It's a distraction. This is about your work. And people don't like that. They don't. They don't like to hear that, especially if they dealt with some really harsh experiences. Don't mean we don't deal with harsh experiences. It doesn't mean people aren't unconscious at times, but the more conscious you can be, the sooner you set yourself free. And the sooner you set yourself free, the more we all get a little more free, including those people that you're labeling karmics back there. Because like it or not, we're all in it together. We are. We're all in it together. And we need to work with that collective energy in order to forge the new way forward. Check it out, man. That's what the age of Aquarius is all about. Are we going to have any kind of revolution, evolution, unless we get out of this mindset? Absolutely not. So it's up to you. Do you want to show up? Do you want to be present? Do you want to do your part? Do you want to be an agent of change in the world? Do you want to be the change you want to see in the world? Well, in order to do that, you got to stop worrying about what so-and-so is doing over there, how they're going to pay for what happened over there. You know, it's silly. You had your part. You had your part too. Yeah. You know, you mirrored something to each other. You came as teachers to each other. It doesn't matter the nature of the experience. We always have an opportunity to choose whether we're going to allow it to level us and move us into a cycle of destruction, or whether it's going to be the fuel for a fire that gets us to transform and rise up in a new form. And that is what that celestial vermilion bird is about. It's about that fire test of truth that blazes a trail within, that burns away all that's false in the consciousness, so we can be like a clear conduit for the highest expression of our soul to come on through. And this is what forges our trail forward. This is what opens the road to that north node of destiny. And this is what we're all moving toward right now. It's not such an earthly matter. It's more a celestial matter. Absolutely 100%. That's what the age of Aquarius is about. And it's not too much longer that we have to go, you know, through this age of the Kali Yuga. It's coming to a head, right? This is why you're seeing everything fall apart all around you. You know, this is why you're seeing so many people being exposed, so many people in positions of power being exposed right now. It's because this is what happens in the age of the Kali Yuga. All that is false, all that's a lie, all that is destructive, that is deceitful, all that is an illusion, all that is Maya, it needs to be completely leveled and torn down. It's a terribly destabilizing experience. And we're not done yet. Okay, we're at the montage portion here. So it's only going to amp up, all right? We're exactly. I mean, look what's going on with that. And isn't it interesting too, just with celebrity, like the way people are viewing celebrity, it's like everybody wants to tear that down too. And good. It's time that we stop that, you know? It's time we stop looking through the lens of the haves and the have-nots, right? Because again, if we're going to make it through this stretch, we all have to come together. We do. And a lot of people tend to look on the more negative aspects of this, but really, you know, by the middle of 2025, we are starting to head into the golden age. All right. The nodes of destiny shift again. We move out of the age of the Kali Yuga, and then we move into that time when the creativity comes forward. All right. We move into a new state of being. Right? And we get to decide what that looks like. We get to decide. But in order for it to be the most impactful and for us to really turn the way things are going around just on a global level, we have to start with us. The revolution happens within us. And then it's mirrored in the reality outside of us. So this has always been the focus here at Broad Coven. We focus on really recognizing that we are an aspect of that one great creative force. We are the creator funneling through us, each and every one of us. So do you understand how it doesn't really make sense to focus on what other people are doing or how they've been, you know, moving incorrectly? Because when we do that, we take all of that creative energy And that's what is taking up our space and our consciousness. The focus on this, the destructive elements, instead of focusing on our own road, right? And really doing our own transformational work and diving really deep and looking at the rough stuff, right? Clearing everything out, doing our healing work, and allowing us to start to contribute a new, type of frequency to the overall cosmic web of creation. That's what shifts everything. Now, I love that this Vermilion bird came in because it's also something that's associated. We bring in these 5 heavenly beasts when we're doing feng shui, okay? When we move things around in our home. And it is great during Panchakarma week. If you feel like clearing things out of your environment, doing a little spring cleaning, I'm going to be doing that. That's another great way to move energy and actually unpack the stuff, Go through those boxes, get rid of those old things you're holding on to, lighten your load, become more minimalist. Minimalist. You don't need to hold on to things so much. It's so freeing also on that level when you start releasing things, right? When you start releasing things from your physical environment, you create more room, you create more space, okay? More space for what does have meaning, right? So if you feel like doing that, that's a great way to do it. And you might want to work with feng shui a little bit. Like, how can I set up my environment to be more harmonious with the natural flow of nature? So last week it was funny because we were supposed to find that gold thing, right? Well, the direction south that is represented by, the vermilion bird, the celestial vermilion bird. In order to bring in the blessing energy in feng shui, what do you put in the south of your home? A gold item. So I thought this was so funny because the first week we had the feather, right? We had a feather come in. And then the second week was about finding something gold. And now here's the feather, here's the gold, and here is that celestial vermilion bird, all right? And it's interesting because it also represents financial success and favorable opportunities, things that actually ground in your material reality, which is associated with that pentacle energy, associated with the direction of north, which is that north node, Aries energy, and also is the stone of destiny. We'll be bringing in a whole separate download around that. But when we're looking at what imparts, what's imparted by this celestial vermilion bird, we are looking at that cardinal energy of the north node, which is normally represented by the north direction is associated with Capricorn, okay? So that's 10th house energy. And these are all the qualities that come with this energy of the celestial vermilion bird. We have this energy and fire and zest for action. We have our public reputation, how we're representing ourselves in the world, how we're viewed in the world comes through, but also freedom and spontaneity and joy and confidence. These are all qualities that are stoked by working with this particular totem energy that came in. So we're being asked to move into more of this space with this totem coming in to really clear out that heavy energy so we can move more into this place of less fixedness, right? More spontaneity, more flow, less feeling this state of apathy and inability to move out of the stagnancy, more self-confidence, more enterprising spirit, more of that kind of I can do it. I can transform this energy. 4:44 on the clock, 4 in the room right now, right? Bottom of the deck energy, 7 of Cups, okay? But in order to do that, we have to move out of the Maya. We have to move out of the illusion. We have to look at things as they are. We also have to stop having such a scattered focus, right? Part of working with that fire energy that we bring in with Panchakarma is also about really harnessing the focus, not having the energy dissipated in all directions. So I would say to just best master that is to come into the present moment, right? So whatever you're experiencing as you move through this week, come into the present. The collective in general has been really sluggish with closing up karmic cycles, staying really stuck in this place of just needing to regurgitate things over and over and over again. And I encourage you to look at this in a new way. Look at how looking at something over and over and over again and allowing it to fester like that is actually it's a little like smoke and mirrors you're pulling on yourself, okay? It's a little sleight of hand, because do you see, when you do this, then it distracts you from actually getting to work in your own life and moving forward with what you need to do. It's an excuse. It's an excuse for why there isn't progression or why you feel lost. It's that place of attachment, right? So the more that you can just, yes, allow yourself to feel what you feel, okay, experience it, but keep being present, and keep bringing it back to the present. And when you do notice that you're wallowing, when you do notice that you're kind of going over the same old emotional ground over and over and over again, all right? I mean, therapy can be like that sometimes. Therapy can be very beneficial on a certain level for a certain amount of time, but at a certain point, when you just keep telling the same story over and over and over again, it becomes a liability. It becomes a way to stay stuck. It becomes a way to negate personal responsibility and taking accountability for our own quality of life, okay? And our peace that we're meant to bring forward. So, this is when you find yourself in those places where the energy feels stuck, that you go, okay, how can I move this energy now? All right? So you can move that in the way that feels best to you. You'll notice in the course I have outlined different ways to work with that, right? I'll be bringing in the third week by Saturday. It'll be up on the blog, so you have, a few days to prepare. And let's see what we need to know as we're moving into this week of purification, as we're moving into this week of puja. What does the collective need to know? What is in need of transformation? How can we open this road so we can stoke that inner fire, get back our sense of confidence and our sense of self-agency, so we can move forward on our path in an empowered, focused way, so we can activate our north node, so we can close old karmic cycles and set ourselves free. What do we need to know? Burn it all? Well, I mean, yeah, burn it all. Yeah, burn it all, boondock. That's what it's about. It's about going through that fire of transformation and burning away all that is false within us. Remember, in Ayurveda, what's ever happening on a grander scale is also happening on the level of our own inner cosmology. Macrocosm is reflected in microcosm. So yeah, we're watching all these towers on a global level, right? Well, we're experiencing a tower within ourselves too. There's things that are false within us that need to fall away. There's lies we've told ourselves that we need to unravel. There's ways we need to shake out of our own inertia and open up to a new way of being. Let me see what we got here. Sometimes get stuck in fight or flight because of PTSD, and the only way to force it off is a needle through my neck called an SGB block. Gotta call them today to see if that helps this any. Well, fight or flight, PTSD, again, and this can certainly help with all of that, okay? PTSD is related to like a neural loop, right? And so it's like a habitualized kind of like round that the mind goes through. It's caused by, I have a whole thing in Panchakarma where I go through this, and I think it does come up in this course, I'm pretty sure. But I relate it to samskaras, okay? Samskaras are like psychic wounds, so it's almost like those samskaras form on our consciousness when something happens to us that is more than we're able to consciously adapt to at the time. It can form almost like a psychic, like scar tissue, a samskara in a certain part of our like neurology, okay? And it becomes like a skip in a record, so it can be continually activated. But there is even ways that that can be undone, okay? And we do go into that. There's ways that that can be done with certain pranayama work, with working with neti, okay, with working with ghee and certain different methods. I do believe we go into that in this course. It comes up later, okay? I think that comes in more like week 5 or week 6, all right? I'll check into it to make sure. And if not, we'll do something where we dive into that. But I've also dealt with that. So I know very much that PTSD is a real thing. But one thing that can help with PTSD is, again, to start to move it out of the physical body. People reach a certain place when they're healing from trauma where it's like, I've felt all the emotions, I've looked at it over and over again, I've gone to therapy, I've gone to support groups, I've done this, I've done that, I've done the other, and it's still here. Why is it still here? It's because it needs to move physically. You have cellular memory. Your muscle has memory. Your body is a collection of stories of everything that has ever happened to you. And at the same time, we also know that within 90 days, on a cellular level, the body completely regenerates itself. So if we can move the energy out physically, okay, and stop trying to deal with our traumas from a rational level, like trying to reason with the trauma, because sometimes it's unreasonable, right? You're never going to be able to make sense of a traumatic experience, okay? You just won't. That's never going to be the way through. Yes, it's important at a certain stage of the healing process to be witnessed in the pain and what you feel, and to be able to express that and have it held within a safe space. This is how therapy is beneficial to a certain extent. But when it's continually focused on, it actually reinforces that neural loop. And so it's almost like programming the PTSD at a certain point, right? So there does come a stage of healing with trauma where it's important to get it out of the head and actually get it into the body by clearing it out of the body, so you can have the emotional release, so you can free up the energy, and you can clear out the cellular memory through getting the lymph moving. And this changes everything. Ayurveda is very powerful for that, okay? I'll check. I'll make sure. And if it's not included in this course, I'll bring in a talk on that in one of these lives, all right? I will look into that, because that's, that is something that can really get people stuck. Let me see what Mystic Shaman says here. I'm trying to get out of this revenge mode and let it go, because a long-term friend stabbed me in the back of the head with like an ice pick, trying to let it go. But I feel you. Yep, I feel you. A lot of people are dealing with that, right? There's been a lot of betrayals. There's been a lot of, it's what's coming to a head. We're closing up really heavy karmic cycles. It's justice at the South Node. So all the ways we've been wronged, all the ways that we've been, that we've been traumatized, all the ways that we have, experienced disappointment, all the resentments we're holding on to, all of our shadow stuff, all of that. Remember, when we're looking at the scales of justice, it really evokes the Ma'at energy, and your heart must be lighter than the feather. There's that feather that came in the first week, okay? So we can't hold on to all that stuff if we want to be free. And at a certain stage, this is what has helped me personally, mystic, shaman, sage. At a certain stage, when we hold on to resentment, we're actually continuing to like feed that lifeline to that person, place, thing that did put us in that place of trauma, pain, loss. Okay, it's sort of like a Stockholm syndrome. And you know, it's not something that can be forced. It's not. You can't just suddenly say, okay, I forgive, right? And I think a lot of people get caught up in this illusion that forgiveness is required to heal. No, it's not. It's not. And forgiveness looks different to everybody. Forgiveness looks different to everybody. And sometimes forgiveness just means letting go. And I'm not going to process this anymore. I'm not going to hold space for this anymore. I'm not going to feel the need to get revenge, right? I'm not going to feel the need to get revenge because I'm not chained to this. I'm free of this. I do not need to be held back by this energy. I don't need to be held back by what happened to me. I can pull that out at the root and I can leave it where it needs to be in the past. And now I move forward, transformed into a new version of myself, right? And it's important too. You know, this is why this kapha cleanse will be helpful, because it also brings in the peace of landing in the heart at the end, coming into a place of compassion, not just compassion for others, but compassion for ourselves as well. All right. So be patient with yourself. And I think what you're doing right here, you know, starting out, just acknowledging like, I want revenge. And I recognize, you know, because you're trying to let it go. So you recognize this does not serve my highest good. Like, this is not in my best interest to hold on to the resentment, to hold on to the anger, to hold on to the spirit of revenge. Okay. It's like going back to that place of like, we can nurture certain feelings for so long that we feed them our ki, we feed them our life force energy, and then they end up becoming like a spirit themselves. They end up taking on their own life form, right? And sometimes that, you know, that's why sometimes people will wonder, well, why do I keep having the same kind of experiences over and over and over again? I feel like I keep having the same kind of experiences, the same kind of relationship, the same friendships, you know, all this loyalty, the betrayal, this, that. It's because when we hold on to our resentments and we hold on to those woundings, we make it a spirit, and that spirit, you know, in a sense, starts to haunt our lives. It brings more of the same because that's what we're feeding. We could feed other things. Okay. So you'll see, you know, if you work with the course and as it's outlined, you'll see, right? As you start to clear out the ama physically, as you start to move your emotions, as you start to move your limb, stuff's going to come up to be cleared. All right. Puja week isn't always fun. It can get kind of intense at times. All right. And you feel worse before you feel better, just to keep it real, but it opens the road. Right. So that's why you need to go to the body. Okay. Go to the physical body. And I know just from what you've shared with me before, mystic, shaman, sage, that you have a history, right? You have a history. You've spoke about that openly in chat and stuff. But you have a history of deep-seated trauma, right? So even more so. Okay, more so. And it's interesting the way that we kind of like start to unravel our trauma and the way it spirals back too. This is why we look at things like generational trauma as well. You see some more things here. Therapy didn't help it exactly. Okay. Love to you. Abhishek Sharma. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yes, of course, please. You are free to ask questions. Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get some cards on the table here. So what is this particular totem, this celestial vermilion bird, bringing to our Panchakarma experience? What are we being asked to focus on? What is the collective being asked to clear at this time so we can really open our road? Working with the dragon tarot here. Let's see what comes in. It's taking its time. I also will say that the other associations with the vermilion bird are a sense of virtue, a sense of duty, a sense of humanity, okay, and reliability, you know, consistency. Consistency is something that comes up in Panchakarma. You don't have to be perfect, okay? It's consistency that counts. And then there's also the piece about ritually correct behavior, okay? So this is interesting too in the process of our transformation, to ensure that we're moving in such a way that's in harmony with our higher consciousness. And when we look at that through that like ritual lens, and we look at a lot of the collective, there is a lot of people in the collective that are throwing around, you know, throwing around magic. They are. And some of that is through, you know, actually doing workings, and some of that is through others, you know, other sources of manipulation. And it's because of that feeling of being so uprooted and wanting control and wanting to get things contained. But there's this unraveling that needs to happen first. And the more that we can, again, you know, focus on that unraveling that needs to happen within us, then the more we come into alignment with what is ritually appropriate as well, right? The work of the alchemy is not really about, you know, casting things outside of ourselves. It's about transforming from within. Okay. Born in New Delhi. I wanted to ask about, I had a girlfriend 2 years back, got broke very badly. Now I'm scared to talk to anyone else. Well, it sounds like you're still holding on to that pain. So I would say that you need to allow yourself to have space to, you know, really grieve, you know, grieve the letting go of that relationship, and understand that, you know, you don't have to be afraid to keep your heart open. You know, you can have a different experience, but that's part of what we deal with in Panchakarma. We're clearing out the heavy energy, the ama. That's what ama is. Ama presents itself in the physical body as mucus, you know, congestion. But it's that which is undigested. So you have a bit of almost like a samskara, right? You have like a psychic wound from this relationship where you got hurt very deeply. So Panchakarma can help with that. You know, as you do this clearing work and you start to move it out of your tissues, you start to move your lymph, you'll start to have emotional release. And you can clear that from, you know, your consciousness, so you can create space for a new type of love to enter. You know, Panchakarma helps you come into the softness of your heart too. That's how we close. It moves into the like divine mother energy, the nurturing, the compassion, the softness, the ojas, to feel not vulnerable and as if one is at a disadvantage when they open their heart, but quite the opposite with kapha. It's about feeling empowered in the vulnerability, that the vulnerability is strength. That's where we arrive at the end. So that's what I would say. The more that you do this work, the more that it'll help you clear it out, okay? So I'll put the link to where you can find the information so you can follow along if you like. It's free, doesn't cost anything. And here we got Sire of Swords, okay? So see, look at the transformation that's wanting to happen here with that butterfly energy. This is about being decisive about what needs to be cut off. It's about being decisive about what needs to be pulled out from the root. Yes, I understand. I understand. It's natural when you've been hurt to fear that you're going to get hurt again. Everybody has this experience, I think. I don't think anybody hasn't had this experience, but you deserve love. You know, you deserve to have that experience of being open to love, right? So it just takes time. And love is a risk. Love is an outlaw. you can't control love. There's no safe spaces in love. See, and this is where that spirit of yes comes in. Okay, so like as soon as you can accept that there are no safe spaces in love, then you have to ask yourself, take it another step further. So are you going to use the excuse of you were hurt once in love before to never allow yourself to open to it again? There are no safe spaces in love. Love is complete openness. Love is complete vulnerability. Love in its highest form has no ulterior motive. It's absolute transparency. It's nakedness. It's allowing yourself to be seen as you are, showing up, present as you are. And yes, not everybody's ready to go that place. And yes, sometimes you'll get hurt. But if you're able to come from the place of yes with it, okay? Yes, I accept that I may get hurt. But it's like that nice Nin quote where she says something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, where one day the risk to stay tight in a bud became greater than to take the risk to blossom. You know, it's that thing. Do you want to hold on to the thorns just to stay in a safe space? Does that make sense? Or are you willing to actually experience the sweetness of the bloom? Here, now we got a Bronte quote, "He who dares not grasp the thorns should never crave the rose." So when we come from a place of yes, in the spirit of love, which love is yes, we accept that sometimes pain is part of love. It's part of the experience. Pain can be a doorway to actual greater levels of love. Because it's not about the resistance or the denial of the pain. We can even love pain away. Does that make sense? When we view pain as an initiatory doorway, it's actually that very thing that like cracks our heart open. I have this saying, I like to say, hearts are never broken. They're broken open. When we experience pain because of rejection or some kind of loss in love, it only awakens us to deeper levels of love within ourselves. That's the potential, because we encounter such great vulnerability in the face of rejection, right? And so how do you make it through that supreme vulnerability? Well, by learning to love yourself, even through that love and acceptance, that love that's always there with you. So love never goes anywhere. We just allow ourselves to experience it through the reflection of other people around us. That's what love is. It's a mirror. Okay. So often we go through these experiences because there's something we need to shed within ourselves. It's all part of our growth process. And the sooner that we can come to a place of saying, yes, I recognize that if I open my heart to love, I may get hurt. I may get hurt. I may be rejected. It may not turn out the way I want it to. But if we're able to do that and we're able to open up to the experience, then it always offers growth. And here's the other thing, we can't always trust others. We can't. There are people who will be dishonest with you. There are people who will take advantage. But you can trust yourself. And that's also what love is. Love is perfect trust. Okay? So it starts with you. You can trust yourself. And you will know in the future, if you open your heart to love again, that if somebody is moving in a certain way that doesn't feel right to you or feels unsettling to you, if something is making you feel unsafe, okay, then you will know to trust yourself to speak to it directly. And if the person can't greet you in that place of openness to go through that kind of growth process, that kind of honesty, that kind of transparency, then you will know because you love yourself and you accept yourself, regardless of how somebody else views you, that you will remove yourself from that situation. We never have to give our power away to anybody. The funny thing is we can't really give our power away to anybody because it's all one energy. We just choose how we perceive it. It all depends on our BS, our belief systems. Okay. So this is about, taking the risk, what's the worst that could happen if I open my heart to love? Well, I could get hurt. What's the worst that could happen if you don't? Sometimes it's about asking the right questions too. Shouldn't there be more fear around never opening your heart to love again? Sometimes it helps to look at something from a different angle, to see, is it really true? Does that really make sense? Isn't it actually more painful to keep yourself in a place where you're forever closed to love? Isn't that a greater loss? Isn't that a greater suffering? I think so. Maybe that can help. I'd say experiment with that. Oh, you're welcome. You're amazing. You're amazing to bring in, that sensitivity and to share that because, you're not the only person who struggles with feelings like that. Okay, so I would say try that on for size for this week, for Panchakarma Puja week. Try that on for size. See if you can look at it that way. Just hold that question. Let that be a question. And it may be something that actually serves the collective. And I'm glad you brought it in because I don't think you're alone in that. I think there's a lot of people who are afraid to open their hearts. Absolutely. It's clear. What's driving the collective? Fear. Fear is the opposite of love. Okay. And we can't create a new future moving from a place of fear. No, we need to be revolutionaries, right? Emphasis on the evolution part, we need to evolve, we need to grow, we need to be brave. It takes courage to be in your place of love within your heart. It takes courage to love. It's very brave. And that's what we need. We need to awaken that bravery. So just let that be a little seed that you plant, as you move through this week of puja, purification, road opening, and just ask yourself as you move through this Panchakarma week, is it safer for me to never open my heart to love again or to take the risk to let love in? And just see. Don't try to control, the answer that comes in. Ask life to show you. Ask life to show you. Ask life to reflect it to you in what unfolds on your day-to-day basis, the experience you have. Ask life to show you. Show me, life. Is it safer for me to close down my heart and to protect myself from ever getting hurt by love again? Or is it safer for me to open my heart and risk the wound? Okay. Remember, Rumi said the wound is how the light gets through, right? Yes. I mean, most people are like that, right? They shut down. So let's look at this, okay? It looks like love is coming front and center, and I really love that because kapha is all about the heart. It's all about that sweet nectar stored in the heart, the ojas, the nectar of life, the sweetness, the joy, okay? That hummingbird medicine, the sweetness of the bloom, all right? So this is beautiful that this comes in because this is the whole point of a panchakarma in kapha season. It's to move into the sweetness, the softness, the vulnerability, the receptivity, move into the heart center, move into the love, okay? Oh, well, you know, I mean, that's good. It's good to not want to settle, right? It's good to not want to settle, absolutely. But if you're just not wanting to settle, then that doesn't mean that you're not still open to love, you know? It doesn't sound like your boundaries are, you know, overwhelmingly rigid, right? Okay, that's also, you know, boundaries can create more space for freedom for us, or they can become a limitation. So that's another good thing to hold, you know, with Panchakarma Week 2. Do my boundaries give me more freedom, or do they limit me? Okay, so we have a couple of juicy reflections coming in already. We don't barely have any cards out, okay? It's just all dropping into the energy collectively, all right? These are great meditations to take into Panchakarma this week and to see what is being reflected back. Oh my gosh, the Sire of Swords came out again. Okay, yes. So this is time, you know, to balance out what needs to be balanced out so we can have that transformation. Big Aquarian energy, you know, with the Sire of Swords here. This is about that expansion that is desired, the transformation that is desired. But the butterfly doesn't become the butterfly overnight, right? The butterfly goes through stages of growth. There's stages of transformation as well. And we're just getting started here, okay? Just getting started here. I love this. It's giving me Stone of Destiny vibes. You see the sword that's on that stone, though. That makes me think about before we can really root our visions in material reality and we can know the way forward, before we can arrive at that place where a road is open and we activate our North Node of Destiny, what do we need first? We need our truth, our essential truth. We need to be able to really live by that truth, stand by that truth, to pull the sword from its sheath and activate that power of that truth in our life. And it's only when we merge it with the fire and we take action that's in alignment with our core truth that we start to open up the process of the nurturing to come in from the water. These are those those 5 elements, you know, of creation. And as we water it with our emotions and we get that emotional flow and we don't stay in this place of stuck stagnancy, but we allow the rasa, the river of life, the lymphatic system to flow, our emotions to flow, we open the road to nurture what wants to grow in our life. Then we come to the place of liberation, freedom, total transformation. You know, but you got to go through your goop stage, right? It all has to come undone. But once it's all come undone, you know, there's the need to let the chrysalis take place. You know, you gotta sprout your wings. You can't stay safe. You can't stay tight in the bud. You can't stay cocooned forever. At some point, you have to take the risk to emerge and experience life again. All right. Yeah, you know, and it's coming. It's coming. We're moving out of this fixed position. I mean, we got the moon energy right here. All right. We got the tigers here. Okay, tigers are about movement. They are about moving forward. They're about moving forward in a way that will endure. Okay, they have a certain pacing. Okay, it's not about rushing impetuously. It is about using that sword of truth to have discernment about What am I drawing a line under in my past? What am I releasing now? What am I cutting out at the root? Okay, so I can get myself to a place where I have clarity and I have focus and my actions are in alignment with my core truth. It's moving out of the confusion, out of the illusion, seeing things as they are. This is making the subconscious conscious. So we don't say that it's ruling our lives. We don't call it fate. That's what happens when we repress our emotions, when we're not willing to look at really what is the driving force there. It may come through a job loss. It may come through the end of a relationship. It may come through a health crisis. Okay, there can be many things that cause us to have that trauma activated, our fear activated, these feelings activated. But there's always a core truth or a core theme that runs through that if you get down to the bottom of it, okay, and you really bring it to the surface, you're able to label it. You're able to understand what the spirit of that thing is. And once you understand that, you can exorcise it. You can free yourself of that spirit. You can give up the ghost, so to speak. And then you are moving forward in such a way where you've cleared out all that old energy that used to hang over you like a dark cloud. Okay, so I feel like this is the process we're in right now because we are moving in that eclipse energy. And with the retrograde coming in as well, this moon that we just had, it's relating back to the last lunar eclipse that we had in 2023, which occurred on October 28th. So think back, what was going on in your life back there? What was going on, back in, the fall of last year? Likely there's loose ends there. Okay. So this is what you're really being asked to clear out now. There's a need to really look at this and to face this and to acknowledge the truth of the situation plainly and come to a place of acceptance with it when we're looking at that Sire of Swords, right? To just look at it plainly with a spirit of, yes, I accept this. This is how it went down. This was the experience. And not from a place of projection. They did this, they did that, they did. See how it shifts too when you stop telling the story from the narration of what that person did. And instead start telling your story from the perspective of your actions in the situation, your feelings. I felt this about the situation. I took these actions. This is what I would do differently. It changes the narrative right away, and it also gets you out of those repeat neural loops, okay? So there is a need for some kind of transformation here if we're to move forward out of this place of a sense of lack of the Five of Pentacles. That's that poverty consciousness. And when I say poverty consciousness, I'm not just meaning like financially, materially. I'm also talking about spiritual poverty. I'm talking about emotional poverty. I'm talking about mental poverty where there's no room to grow. There's no new insights. There's no fresh conscious awarenesses because everything is just clogged up with all these old stories that keep you in a place of longing, lacking, never having enough. Okay. And ironically, it's this energy that feeds the greed consciousness. It's this energy that causes us to cling to things, to have a hard time letting stuff go. Okay. So this is what we're being asked to transform. We got to look at this. We got to look at these patterns of behavior and how we're keeping ourselves in a place of lack. Because there is a wheel of fortune here. It is time for the wheel to turn. It's wanting to turn. It's wanting to transform. Fixed sign energy coming in really strongly with this. Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus. This is also a Sagittarius card. Sagittarius provides a clue for how to move forward, how to work with the fire, right? Optimism, fueling the optimism, moving into that space of expansion, being willing to get a higher perspective of things. That's very harmonious with the Aquarian energy. And then you'll be going places, okay? This transformation will take root. It's a lot of racist rednecks in the town I'm in, so my boundaries are justified in this case. Lots of things I have boundaries with now as to not repeat the cycle. Yeah, I mean, that's good. It's good. It's also just to experiment with it, experiment with that, practical boundaries, absolutely, but just, I think it's a really good reflection. I'm going to work with it myself. Are my boundaries giving me more freedom, or are they restricting me? It's helpful, and it's not, that's one of those kind of meditative things that it's actually, it can go to a really deep place. It appears one way on the surface, but it can unlock a lot in the consciousness. I think they're two really helpful reflections, and we definitely need to have boundaries, practical boundaries, absolutely. But where do we have boundaries in our thinking? Where do we have boundaries in our consciousness? Where do we have boundaries emotionally within ourselves? Where do we impose boundaries on ourselves that we tell us are keeping us safe or protecting us in some way, but are actually limiting us? They're not giving us more room, Okay, let's see. What is this change that's wanting to come in for the collective on the other side of doing this work? What is the change that's wanting to come in for the collective on the other side of doing this? Oh, wow. Wait a minute. I never noticed this. The tortoise. Wow. Okay, this is pretty wild because on this particular card, this Wheel of Fortune in this deck, these are the 5 heavenly beasts. I never noticed them before. There, right there, there is the vermilion bird up here. Oh my goodness. Yes, and there's a dragon energy that comes in, the tortoise. Wow, this is really wild. Okay, so it's working with these cycles of creation, this creative cycle that actually allows us to move forward. It allows us to turn the wheel. So wood feeds fire. Wood is that tree energy, right? So we can only really take action if we're grounded, if we're rooted, if we're solid in our truth. Also, we have to be flexible. We can't be fixed. When you look at tree medicine, trees, the wind blows, what do? They give over. They don't push back against the wind. So we have to be able to trust the Tao, or trust the road as it's unfolding before us, right? To move in harmony with our road instead of fighting and moving in such a resistant way to the challenges we're facing. It's more about moving through rather than pushing back. Okay, so this gives us a clue about how we can feed that fire. And then once we take the action, all right, once we're no longer just in our head about things, once we are able to be grounded and rooted in our truth, and we know how we need to move forward, it's through acting on that truth that we actually create the earth, because we have to burn away all that's false. We have to bring down the structures in our lives that aren't truly supporting us. We have to release what is no longer in alignment with our path. And we go through these processes over and over and over again, because that's the nature of life, right? Birth, life, death, rebirth. We go through these cycles of transformation, sometimes even, on a daily basis, right? We're always experiencing this continual flow of energy. So that's what gives us the earth. The earth is what bears metal. There's that gold piece, right? The earth is what allows us to grow things materially that we can see, feel, and touch and experience in our earthly reality. In terms of our physical body, it's also what produces our health. And when we look at that gold energy, it's the ability to alchemize what doesn't serve us and to release what doesn't serve us, our habits, the way we're focusing on our life, our belief systems, emotions we have held within us that are stagnant that we need to clear out. Okay, it's when we give that up that we're able to actually move into this place of mutual receptivity. We find that the earth supports us. Okay, and metal collects water. right? Metal collects water. So this is how we come to this place of nourishment, right? It's come into the heart, come into that place of connectedness. And then again, the cycle begins. Water nourishes wood, right? All things grow. Very interesting. What's this card here? Sire of Cups. I love how it closes with that C. So this is what we're in the process of doing. Right now, as we're starting out, we're in this place of very much in the air energy. I mean, we just had the Libra full moon lunar eclipse. Makes sense. We're more in that sword place, right? We're looking at what we have to cut off. We're looking at things with more of a sort of steely, very clear-sighted focus, looking at just the facts, understanding what needs to be released, but maybe struggling a bit with that, mentally. And what we're meant to do is take that journey from the head to the heart, right? And that's how we reach the place where we can receive the fulfillment, where we get that Ace of Cups, the metal that collects the water, right? The Ace of Cups, the new beginning, the clearing out, right? So this is a process of that, and there's a Sioux saying that the longest journey you'll ever take is the one from your head to your heart, being able to bridge that gap. And I always say that the best way to do that really is to come into your gut, to come into the center of your universe, to come into your belly. Because when you get really rooted in your body and you get rooted in that, womb space, all right? You still have that womb space, that creative cauldron within you, men, when you come into that center like that, that's the point where you move beyond just like intuition, because it's not about divorcing yourself from the lessons you've learned. It's not about, erasing your wisdom that you've gained through the experiences you've been through, those experiences that determined where you do need to put your boundaries, right? And this is important because Kapha also deals a lot with boundaries. Kapha types can have a problem with having too permeable boundaries. Like they have so much care for others that they can kind of overextend themselves and they can let people have too much access to their space. Kapha types also tend to be very grounded, salt of the earth kind of people. And because they have very big hearts, a lot of times people will lean on a Kapha for support. They'll come and tell Kapha types all of their problems, everything they're struggling with, they'll just emotionally dump on them. And Kapha will take it on. Kapha will bear the burden, okay? So it's a big lesson for a Kapha Panchakarma as well to really understand where you do need to lay down boundaries, and how in some cases laying down boundaries, it doesn't limit you, it actually gives you more freedom. In other words, you don't need to take on everybody's stuff, right? You don't need to take on that burden. You can focus just on your piece of that. Oh, I mean, I've had a problem with that too, for sure. Dear, dear Abby, I've gotten a lot better with it though. I've gotten a lot better. And here's the thing too, it's like as you start to lay down your boundary lines, you'll also have people challenge your boundaries, Well, I'm not really, I don't do personal readings on lives. But I would say that, we're doing this for Panchakarma. So we're doing this in such a way where we're looking at clearing the obstacles within us. If you're feeling off with your job, I would say then you've arrived at a certain truth, right? You know that this is not in harmony with you anymore. So if you're feeling off, oh, you're taking time off for a personal reason. I mean, if you're taking time off for a personal reason, I would say that, if your job isn't there when you get back, then you're meant to head in a new direction, right? I mean, if you have to take your job, You know, if you have to take time off from your job and put that to the side, then obviously there's a more pressing matter right now that's needing your attention. So I would say it's more important that you focus on that right now, right? Because that's what's needing the focus. You can cross that bridge when you come to it, you know, right? I mean, it's almost like this is the piece about staying present, Daisy. You know, it's important to stay present with what you're experiencing. And you see, you're taking time off for a personal reason. So obviously there's a need for you to really hold space around whatever it is you're going through, right? There's a need to have presence with what you're experiencing, allow yourself to really process what you're experiencing and show up for what you're experiencing without distractions. So I would say this is a time for you to be very present with what you're feeling so you can move through it consciously, right? The job will take care of itself. You know, if it's in alignment with you, you come back to your job is secure. If it's not, then you're meant to head in a new direction. But you have to just deal with that as it comes. You can't have, you know, any kind of, and it's not going to help you to know that right now either. Not really, because it's distracting you from what you're experiencing. See, this is the way when we start to like project into the future or we start to look back at the past, it's the way we rob ourselves from our point of power, which is the present, you know, and really being with what we're experiencing. I feel like you're meant to go through this experience because perhaps you're supposed to have a different view about how you're supposed to move forward and what truly will give you security. Does that make sense? So just allow yourself to have the experience and be present with what you're moving through. Sounds like you're moving through an initiation period on your path. Okay, anytime that we need to take time off for a personal reason, you know, there's something that we're moving through. And what you're moving through right now is obviously meaningful if you needed to take space from your job. So hold the meaningful space around it and just be present with it, and everything else will take care of itself. All right? That's what I would say. Okay, any other details here? Ooh, that just fell on the ground. All right. And the Seven of Cups comes up again. Okay, so it's like that's the way we can distract ourselves from our growth, all right? Because the growth, the Seven of Pentacles is what fell on the ground, right? It's the way we can distract ourselves from our growth by dissipating our energy, focusing in too many directions. The more that we can focus on the present, the more the road opens for you. It's just a fact. It gets all obstacles out of the way. So be present with whatever you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing, and let the future take care of itself. Because the more present you are, the more effective your actions, the more you step into a place of alignment with the creative force that moves through life. And the more likely you're going to have a positive experience moving forward than when your energy is scattered and it dissipates your power, right? It's the way that we can distract ourselves from what's really coming up. So I would say to be worried about like the job situation right now with the magnitude of what you're feeling, it's sort of a way that you're distracting yourself from what you're really going through right now. And so it's so important to show up, right? I think that you'll know that when the time comes, if you're taking time off for a personal, you know, like I said, that only you can arrive at that choice, right? You should trust what you're feeling in that regard. If you want to do a personal reading with me, you can book a personal reading with me. You can reach out to me at broadcoven@gmail.com. But we're moving through this for the collective, and I'll do personal reads on lives. But I just wanted to give you kind of like a way to like focus your energy as you move through it. You'll know. If you stay focused in the present, you'll know. Time off for a medical reason. I mean, you need to heal right now. You don't need stress. If you're dealing with a medical issue, right? You don't need stress. You need to be able to heal. You need to be able to rest. and restore yourself. So try to, give yourself a little bit of time to really use this. It's interesting with medical stuff and time off. It's interesting you bring this in. I feel like a lot of times, when we're pushing, or we got a lot on our plate and we get very busy with life and we get overextended, that sometimes we have some kind of medical crisis, or sometimes we get injured. And why? It's actually because we're meant to stop. We're meant to stop for a moment so we can be present with something that needs to surface, something that needs to be looked at, something that needs to be, felt, moved through. So I would say just focus on your healing, let yourself restore, and maybe sit in that space and just notice what's coming up for you emotionally. Okay. And you can't do anything about it right now anyway. I mean, hopefully you work at such a place that they honor, that you need to heal from a medical issue. And if they don't, then that's not the right job, right? And maybe you already know it's not the right job for you to just have that question. So that's something to consider, If it already feels a little awkward, then maybe is that the right place to be for you? You'll come to your own realizations, you'll find the light that'll shine your way forward as you're in hermit mode, okay? So this is also what Panchakarma is about. It's about us taking space. It's about creating time. Knee. Okay. They don't. So what does that tell you? Knee surgery. You know what knees represent metaphysically? Like the body, right? The body, it flares up in certain areas, to give information. See, in Ayurveda, everything that is manifest on the physical form has already taken place on the ether, in the mental, in the emotional, okay? On the spiritual, before it even manifests physically. And yes, but specifically movement, it's about fear of moving forward, Daisy. Fear of moving forward. And you know how falls happen? Falls are often related to not paying attention, not being present, okay? So you're here and you're healing from a fall, and it's giving you an opportunity to look at what's really coming up for you. How are you afraid of moving forward? Be present with that. Okay. Sounds like you're not really fulfilled with your job. That's what I pick up. I mean, it sounds like you're not really fulfilled. So be present with that. Start looking at that. And then you can be the creator of your life. Maybe while you're laying there, you will decide, oh, let me put out some, resumes. You can make your future whatever you want it to be. But if you're working for a place that's putting pressure on you when you need to heal from an ACL tear, like, I know what I would do, okay? But I'm not you. You got to decide what's right for you. It's all about you stepping into your empowerment with that. But there's something to look at there. Our bodies tell us what we need to address. That's why we experience pain. That's why we experience sickness. That's why we experience injuries, things like this. It comes to like alert us. Pain is our body's signal to pay attention. There's something you need to see here. Pay attention, So you're being given this opportunity right now to pay attention. And maybe that's one truth that's, kind of confronting you right now. I'm really not fulfilled at my present job. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. Again, there's never any safe spaces. Growth is Growth is a messy process, you know. Life is, we can't predict life. There will always be the opportunity for there to be challenges on the path or for things to go wrong, you know. Only you can decide, you know. Only you can decide what's right for you. But I would say, you know, staying in a place that doesn't feel right to you isn't going to be beneficial, right? You've got to flow in harmony with what feels right to you. Yeah, it takes time to clear fear, you know, it does. It's hard. It takes time to clear fear. The only way through fear though is just confronting it directly and moving through it. But I hope you'll check out the Panchakarma course because we go over all kinds of stuff that can help with that. You know, pranayama works, breath work is excellent for helping hold space for, you know, fear. Also, like physically, you know, moving it out of the body, a little more challenging with a knee injury, okay? But there's still things you can do. You can do chair yoga, you know, there's chair yoga you can do. It doesn't require you to even get up, you know, so you can do different things to move the energy. Yeah. Well, reach out to me, Daisy. I'd be happy to do a personal for you, okay? I think, you know, you could benefit from looking at things a little bit more deeply. And if you need that space held, you can totally like book a personal with me and I'd be happy to help you through it, okay? All right, so let's see here. So, you know, Hermit coming in. So this is just a reminder as we move through this week to, as much as you can, create space for you to just move through your experience without, you know, distractions, without interruptions, any social obligations, you know, that you can release yourself from, any kind of like activities that you can pass on as far as, you know, things that are just, you know, taking on stuff that you don't really need to, but you normally just do because you don't want to like disappoint other people. This is about you creating more space for yourself this week. So you can have some private time to just, you know, move through the cleansing process, all right? Block out this time just for you with the Two of Swords. Create some boundaries around that. That's really important, collective, okay? And yeah, you're going to be in this more kind of internalized space, especially between now and new moon on the 8th, when we have that new moon solar eclipse in Aries, because we also are going to have that Mercury retrograde energy coming in. So I actually feel like this Panchakarma work is super harmonious for the time we're in, because that's what we do with Panchakarma. We review, we release, we cleanse, we let go. And then, you know, by the time you enter into that new moon energy, you'll be more free to move forward. You know, you won't have so much the heaviness holding you down, right? And it will also allow you to effectively deal with those challenges that do come up on your path during this time, because we know things are going to come back around the bend. So how can you greet those challenges as they arise now? You know, what way can you show up for those experiences that maybe you weren't able to show up for before, you know, just by being present and being willing to look at it and not avoid what needs to be looked at. Because yeah, this is where, you know, we're kind of at right now. We're at this 10 of Wands energy, right? It's like total burnout here. And there is time to rest and restore and renew and replenish and release, okay? We can't keep going like this. This is not effective fire, right? Too much fire isn't good. Too much fire physically, that's inflammation, right? But too much fire, too much, you know, mental energy, things firing off in the brain, in the consciousness, too much pent up anger and emotion. It just creates a pressurized internal environment, right? And it makes it impossible to get anything done because then you're exhausted, right? You don't have any energy. You don't have any enthusiasm, right? So try to create some space to rest and reflect this week, so you can learn to really work with your fire in a way that's beneficial. And best way to clear fire out is through movement. And if you're in a position like Daisy where you got an injury or something going on that prevents you from getting exercise, and you can move it out of your tissues, you know. You can do a salt scrub in the shower. That will move the fire. It gets the lymph moving, which helps clear up blockages, which helps, you know, get the emotions flowing, gets that liquid fire state, which is what we want, you know. You can give yourself an abhyanga and just put some warm oil on and massage yourself from head to toe. You know, we go over how to do that in the course. Okay, so there's different ways that you can move it out physically. You can get a gua sha and move it out, right? There's ways that you can move it physically even if you can't exercise. It's very helpful. Once you connect it to the physical, it's amazing how you can move so much mental energy, so much stuck emotions just by taking it to the physical and getting yourself out of that loop, right? Where you have to process it. All right. Yeah, because this is where we're at right now with the Five of Wands here. Okay, so it's like yes, it's that very like working too hard, pushing too hard, westernized, you know, type A, you know, the grind kind of mentality, and also all the things we're fighting from letting ourselves feel, you know, by keeping ourselves distracted and being pulled in all directions. Like this is a recipe for disaster, and what we're really needing is this Ace of Cups, to allow ourselves this opportunity to just be poured into, to give ourselves this time to really nurture ourselves with that water element so that it can cause that beauty to grow. Remember that kapha in balance is like that quality of unctuous earth. It's like verdant land. It's beautiful, you know, growth and lushness, right? So this is about really like allowing yourself to move into that water energy, the earthy energy in a balanced way. Not too much water, not too focused on the past and the sentimentality and getting mired in, you know, this like melancholy, which too much water with earth makes mud, right? Then you're going to get more stuck. So it's about balancing this out. That's why we bring that fire forward too, right? To heat everything up, clear everything out, clear away what's stuck and stagnant and no longer serves. So there's an opportunity for renewal here. Ah, you do walks in nature. Well, I think that's beautiful. If you're able to do it, you know, if you're able to be ginger with it, right? That's good. I mean, nature is so grounding and so clearing. I always recommend getting outside to get moving. Let's do a cut of the deck here and see what we got. Queen of Swords. Okay, so we have King of Swords, Queen of Swords. So do you see here? This is about actually taking action with the truth, and that's what allows the opening to occur, right? It's what allows the transformation, okay? So this is about really balancing those scales. It's about using this opportunity with Panchakarma to hold some reverent space around the cycles you're closing, right? To really allow yourself to honor the journey you've been on and what led you to this point and what you're ready to release so you can move forward in a new way that feels more empowering, right? And that's what leads us to the growth. I love this with the Queen of Pentacles. Okay. So this is about being in that place of really rooting it in material reality, opening up the cycle of creativity. Okay. Taking the risk to move out of that place of, you know, that safe space that's really just a gilded cage. So there can be the freedom to create a new way forward. And then you'll move into this cycle of transformation where you can move into the creative process, right? The creative process of actually creating the new way forward that rises up out of the old. Look at the lilies here. Lilies are about really honoring the losses, honoring what we're releasing in our life. It's about having reverence around the letting go, right? So this is about, you know, acknowledging truths. Some of these truths are hard, and it's important that we do really allow ourselves that space to mourn or grieve significant endings and closures in our lives. But we have to remember that there's a gift that comes through with this. There's this gift that comes through that actually opens the way for new life to come in, a new expression of life. And it's a really beautiful thing. Okay. I mean, this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. And then, yes, once you open the road, you're going to see a whole new way forward with the Two of Wands, right? Then you'll have that fire and balance. It won't be burnout, right? So you're releasing the burden, and through releasing the burden, then you're going to find the way through. It's actually a really beautiful energy. So I think this is a good starting point. There's a lot to think about, and a lot of things that got brought in. I like some of the meditation points that you all brought in. This is why I like to have these community discussions. So I would say, just do your best as you move through this week, okay? Have compassion for yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. This is a dynamic time of change. It's also a challenging time we're moving through, all right? So have a lot of compassion for yourself as you bump up against the places where you are blocked, or bump up against the places inside of you that are having a hard time letting go, right? Or that are fearful about what may come in the future. And the more that you can come into the present and just really pour into yourself and give yourself this care, and work the panchakarma, the more that you are going to start to release those blockages and find a new kind of flow. And it'll be like this unfolding process, okay? But you don't need to be perfect with it. And you can approach it on whatever level is comfortable for you. For some of you, that may be just dropping in with the lives and hearing the discussion and see what comes forward and see what other people bring in. But if you are interested in moving through the course, it's a 6-week course and it's free. It's free. It's my seva, okay? And you can find that at rootsayurveda.blogspot.com. And right now, weeks 1 and 2 are posted. Week 2 is the puja week, the purification week that we're on here. You can do that anytime you want. I would definitely make sure that you do your puja by new moon. Okay, don't let it linger too long into the spring season. That's important, all right, just to do it in a balanced way. But everything is outlined for you step by step by step by step. It's real simple. There's not supplements you need to buy. It's stuff that you have on hand at home. Okay, it's all to empower you in your self-care and in your transformational process. And I'm showing up here, today through Saturday of this week, just to bring in some daily lives and additional support. But if you look at the Aries Point playlist, it's also here on Broadcoven on the homepage. You'll see a whole playlist for Panchakarma that we did last year, all right? And check that out, because there's a lot of information there too on all kinds of stuff, all kinds of pranayama exercises, all kinds of kriyas, and how to use gua sha, and how to make ghee, and all of these things, okay? So there's even more information there. You can just like steep yourself in it, So check that out, and I'll post the link as well to maybe to that playlist too, just to make it easy for you guys. I'll pin it in the comments, and that way you can check out the course and follow along. When you go to the blog, you'll notice that the most recent post is what's going to be on the home page, which is for week 2, which is this actual week, puja week, okay? So what you're going to want to do is hit the older posts at the bottom of the page, and that will take you to the first week that's posted. You want to read the first week first if you haven't already, okay, before you read 2. And then I'll put up week 3 by Saturday, so you have some time to review that. And we'll be releasing them week by week by week by week, all right? So you can just kind of like follow along and experience this, okay? And it's a very beneficial experience to go through at this time of year, to just shake off all that kind of old stuck, you know, kind of heavy energy that accumulates through the winter and just move into more of a lightness of being, just clear out all the cobwebs and just open up to the new spring energy. It feels really good. And once you really get your lymph moving and you get your internal fire, your agni going, and you let go of all that stuff that you've been holding on to, you know, you'll be amazed at how much you can change in 6 weeks. Your whole life can transform, really. It truly can. So I'm very confident, you know. I've seen it play out multiple times. I've led people through this self-care panchakarma multiple times. I've seen people radically transform their entire lives, mind, body, spirit, and in their material reality in 40 days. If you work it, it will work, you know. And if you go all in and you follow every week's focus completely, I promise you, I guarantee you, you will experience such a radical shift in your life. And you can do it, and it can be very empowering. Well, I'm a Reiki practitioner, so I think Reiki is wonderful. And I'm at master level. I don't like using that terminology, master level, because I don't feel like we're ever masters. I feel like we're always learning, always growing in this life. But I've gone through all 3 levels of attunement. I worked with Tomoko Hiroka, was my teacher. She learned from the actual lineage of Usui. And I waited a long time to come into alignment with the right teacher. I was always seeing things about Reiki that were advertised, you know, like these courses to get attuned where, you know, there was like, oh, you know, go to master level in a weekend. I was like, what? I don't know. It just didn't feel right to me. And I held off. And then it was interesting because I started working with Tomoko back when I was doing body work. Okay, so I do like transformational body work, and I worked at a chiropractic office at the time, and was doing a lot of physical therapy oriented work. And it was really interesting because Tomoko came on, and she's a Reiki master and born and raised in Japan and had just recently moved to the States. And we were talking about Reiki one day and she brought it up. And I was like, oh, I've always wanted to learn Reiki, but I really wanted to I wanted to get to the roots of it. And I just felt like what I was seeing in the States, like this can't be Reiki. And yeah, it was interesting talking to her and learning from her because she was talking about how she even sat in on some Reiki classes when she came to the States because she was like, what? They know about Reiki over here? You know, she's like, I thought it was just a Japanese thing, you know? And she was saying how a lot of the symbols are drawn incorrectly. Things are drawn in the wrong direction, and how it's ridiculous to think that you can go to master level in a weekend. Here, this is just so indicative of her like type A, you know, mindset here in the West. More is better, faster, quicker, you know. Um, she said actually that in Japan, somebody can spend their entire, you know, life working with a Reiki master and never go to master level. So I thought that was really interesting. So I think a lot of what people call Reiki out there isn't actual Reiki. Yeah, chokure is not supposed to be drawn different ways though. That's not roots. That's not roots Reiki. That's more westernized concept. No, there's only one direction for chokure. And also it's something that's not supposed to be put in print. And you see it all over the place here. It's considered extremely disrespectful. When I went through my attunement, it took me 5 years to go to master level. Just to put it in perspective, working with Tomoko, it took me 5 years. I got attuned to the first level, and she required that I stay at first level for a year to acclimate to the energy shift. And all that was taught to me, there were no printouts. I had to keep a journal and I had to write down everything she told me. because it was passed down through oral tradition, which is the traditional way. And it's how I wanted to encounter Reiki myself. I wanted to go to the roots of it. I'm like that with everything. Like, take me to the roots of it. I want to honor the roots of the tradition. And so then I went to second level after a year. And after I went to second level, she told me, you will not be able to go to the next level until you've been at this level for at least 5 years. And so I was like, okay. And then when the 5 years came, I was like, I'm ready. She's like, yeah, you're ready. So then I went through that. So I think a lot of what people call Reiki, it's become kind of a blanket term here, but people don't understand that Reiki is a specific lineage. It's from Usui. It's a specific lineage of working with ki or life force energy. I think it's very beneficial. Do I think that other forms of what people are calling Reiki, that's not really Reiki, but is some other type of energy work, are also beneficial? Yes. I think energy work is very potent. I believe it. I believe Reiki helped your knee. Even in Kaiser, they have brought in Reiki practitioners in Kaiser. Kaiser practice is more of an integrative kind of medicine. And personally, just with my own experience, I mean, I've worked as a holistic healthcare practitioner for, gosh, I started when I was 21 years old. So 30 years, okay, 30 years. I've worked as a holistic healthcare practitioner, started as a transformational body worker, and I worked alongside Western medical doctors too. So I've been kind of like in that integrated place. I've worked with oncology departments, I've worked with physical therapy, departments. I've worked alongside doctors, qualified medical examiners, all that. So it's like I know both sides of it. And I feel that that is where it's at. There's benefit to both. And I absolutely believe in, the power of Reiki to be very supportive. Ah, yes, I love sound therapy. The Tibetan bowls, they're so wonderful. I love healing vibrations. I don't know if you're familiar with that YouTube channel. I would love to collaborate with them someday on like a Panchakarma sound bath. It would be so cool. But they're amazing. They put out really great sound baths. Yes, we used to use those in Panchakarma too. We would set up big Tibetan bowls underneath the massage tables that we had the clients on. And we sound off the bowls, and the vibration from the sound, would come up and ripple through the body. Is really cool. Really cool experience. So yeah, I love Reiki. I think, I have a very like holistic view of healing modalities. So I really feel like any angle you can come at, is beneficial. I believe there's, different types of, neuralistic reprogramming that can be very beneficial, and working with visualization techniques. I think it can be very positive to work with meditation and work with things like breath work with body work, and then there's always those pieces of like specific issues, right? Like medical issues. Like sometimes you need a hip replacement. Okay. Sometimes you need a hip replacement, like a lot of good if you really need a hip replacement, sometimes there's no other way to go, or like my father's case, my father needed to have, he needed to have a total bypass, his main artery to his heart, we found out was clogged, like something like 90 something percent. They were saying it wasn't a matter of if he was going to have a heart attack, but when, and it would have been, life threatening. So, we could have sat there and, Reiki that to no end, but would that have done the job? No, I don't think so. Sometimes we need Western medicine too. Oh, well, I mean, for me, it's interesting the way I came to the path of doing the work I do. I came to it because I went through my own like health crisis, healing crisis. and I wanted to help other people. You know, I think it can be very helpful. I like the binaural beats too. I like all that. I throw everything at it. Sound therapy, yeah, let's do that. Let's throw some moxa at it. Let's do some smoke cleansing. Let's do, some kind of ritual to, give meaning to the experience. Like, I'll throw it all in. And that's one of the things that really drew me to Ayurveda, because I actually healed myself from my personal health crisis that I had when I was 21 through Ayurveda. I just picked up a book on it and I applied the guidance and it worked. And then from there, I really wanted to learn how to be an Ayurvedic practitioner so I could support other people in that. And so I did. And it was very rewarding work. And then I learned about Panchakarma and I was like, wow, this is really cool. But when 2020 happened, then my career was like dried up because we couldn't do body work with people anymore. We couldn't deal with people in person. I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I thought, I wonder if you could do like Panchakarma through self-care. I mean, it's obviously a different experience, right? Because normally if you go and you receive Panchakarma, then you're going to have a team of practitioners working with you. Usually, like, we would have minimum 3 practitioners working with a patient, so it would be all 3 of us, doing body work on the person at the same time and, tending to their every need. And so that's how I came up with the 40 days. The 40 days was based on the concept of, if you look at most mantras, to unlock the siddhi or the power of the mantra, you have to work with the mantra for a 40-day period. And so I just said, I wonder if I went through Panchakarma on my own, could I achieve the same result? Because I've received an actual physical Panchakarma from a team of practitioners. So I know what that experience is like too. I've given Panchakarma and I've received it. And I wanted to know, could I experience that same kind of level of transformation through self-care? And I reckoned that it was like, well, I probably will have to make it expand over a period of time, because there's no way that you could do it for just a few days and experience the same results. So that's how I came up with the concept of the 40 days. I put myself first through a 40-day journey with it. I was like, wow, I changed so much. Everything shifted. And I was like, okay, it's doable, but you need to do it for 40 days, which is a little different. Okay. It's different than receiving Panchakarma. And it's more of a slower pace. It's more an unfolding process, right? And it also requires accountability. And the thing I kind of like about it is it's empowering, because I think a lot of people have a hard time really showing up to address their own needs. A lot of times people fall into patterns of codependency where they expect others to fulfill their needs for them. And that's one thing that a self-care Panchakarma really imbues in this, in the consciousness and just in your approach to life, is the need to be accountable and to really own your actions and own your role as creator. And so there's something about the presence and the commitment and the straightening by fire aspect to really just show up for yourself, to address your needs. It's super. Ooh, a block. It unravels a lot of dysfunctional patterns, being able to move through it self-paced and kind of having your own journey of it. So that's how I came up with that outline like that. Does anybody have any questions about this first week before I move on out of here and move on with my day? I'm curious. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about Panchakarma specifically. And I'll just give you a moment to kind of touch base with that. I will be on tomorrow. I have no idea what I'll be bringing in when I do these lives. I'm going through Panchakarma now. I'm just going through the cleanse week with both of you. Okay. So, with all of you. I'm saying both of you because I'm talking to both of you right now, but all of you are participating. I'm going through Panchakarma, with you. So I just download it in the moment. Whatever wants to come through comes through spontaneously on these lives. So we'll see. I don't ever have help, so I know whatever I do is on me. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that in some ways. There's ways in the past that I used to have a really hard time asking for help. I was kind of programmed like that, When I was younger, I had the mindset that I had to do everything myself. I was the eldest in the family, so I got used to kind of taking charge, and I had to kind of keep everything managed. And I've always kind of been in that position where a lot of times people will defer to me or lean on me, or, and I like to do it because I genuinely care about people. But there's times when I would do it in such a way that my own needs weren't met. You know what I'm saying? And I had to unravel that and unpack that. And I think a lot of people deal with that too. I really began to realize that me overextending myself to like show up for everybody else was a way that I kind of ended up putting myself in this position of like proving that I had value to others by making myself have value by tending to their needs. And that really caused me to start to look at the way I value myself. And that changed a lot of things for me. I started putting down boundaries. And then I also learned about, asking for help and when to put down boundaries around that too. Like how you kind of brought in earlier, Boondock, about when you have to be aware of who you can really ask for help to, using that discernment. I relate to that feeling like there's nobody to ask for help, but there's always somebody. There's always somebody. Look, you have me. I'm here to help. I'm here to support. There's always somebody, right? There's always somebody. I also understand what you're saying on that level in a certain regard because we all have different ways of moving through things too. And I'm one of those people, if I'm struggling with something heavy, I really do need to kind of just process it on my own. I think it's because I'm such a strong Libra. Like I have 5 placements in Libra: Sun, Rising, Mars, Pluto, and Uranus. Okay. And they're all in the first house of Aries. So I'm really feeling this whole cycle pretty intensely. I hold pretty much a balance of Libra and Aries energy, but I have to say that as a Libra, we're always like balancing things out. And it's not because we're going, should I do this or should I do that? But we're really trying to look at the shadow and light aspects of a situation and finding that center balancing point, the tempering point. And so when I'm going through something, it doesn't actually help me a lot of times. Sometimes it does. Sometimes I do need a sounding board. Most of the time when I need to pull somebody in, it's like, can I just bitch with you for a minute? Can I just like bitch for, I don't need advice. I don't want advice. I just want to like have somebody to just vent to, and that's very helpful. But as far as like asking for help, a lot of times when it's around things like advice and stuff, I tend to not like it because I feel like I don't really get any insight. Sometimes I do. It depends on who I'm talking to. I'm very selective about who I reach out to for help. I have a lot of boundaries around that. I think sometimes, outside opinion can actually be more of a distraction than it can be an assistance. And it's kind of rare to find people that can actually empower you to arrive at your own answers, right? Just by holding the space. So let's see. Yeah. Yep. Same with me. I grew up with a lot of that too. I had to be the strong one. Yeah. So I learned to adopt that. But as the time went on, though, I started realizing that had become a bit of an identity crutch, and that I needed to really learn how to ask for help too. Okay, I needed to learn how to ask for help as well. And that took time. And that had everything to do with the healing process that I went through, my health crisis. That was fundamental part of my healing, was to learn to ask for help. But that was a whole process too, like learning how to trust certain people, learning who were my right support people. And then you have to deal with, the difficulties around that too, because sometimes people, they want to help. And sometimes it can kind of feel invasive, right? Like they just want to be all up in your business. And it's hard to lay down boundaries around that too, because sometimes people are like, well, call me, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about it. And they're like, well, but I want to show up for you and I want to give you help. Well, I don't want your help. You're not the right kind of help. And, and then there's that piece too, when asking others for help, like, do they have the capacity to show up for me in the way I need them to show up for me? Because whenever we're reaching out for help too, somebody has to be able to show up in such a way that can hold the correct space for you. So, I have different people that help me with different things. Like I have certain people that are just really soft, right? They're soft and they're compassionate and they're very gentle, and they create a really safe space for me where I can be like super vulnerable. And I come to those people when I need that, when I need a gentle place to land. And then I have other people that are more like, they'll fire me up, They'll be like, come on, stop worrying about that. They'll like, give me a little boot to the ass. And that's very beneficial too. Sometimes that's the help I need, right? Sometimes I just need somebody to listen. It depends. So there's all kinds of boundaries that come around that too. So just like Kapha can struggle with overextending themselves and taking on too much and needing to put boundaries around that, there also are boundaries that are needed on the other side of that too, when we do reach out for help, being aware of who are our safe spaces and how can this person realistically show up for me, instead of expecting somebody to show up in a way they aren't capable of, because it's just not who they are, But I've had a lot of resistance around that when I've told people like, well, I don't really want to talk, and then they'll get angry with me. Well, I want to help you. It's like, yeah, but I don't want your help. I'm not trying to be insulting, It's just you're not the right kind of help for me right now. Do I follow a specific way of eating? It's interesting. No, and I'll tell you why. I do, in the sense of I practice an Ayurvedic approach, okay? So I'm aware of what my constitution is. I'm a Pitta Vata. And so because I'm predominantly fire, that means it's better for me to have a more anti-inflammatory kind of diet, a more Mediterranean kind of diet, more plant food emphasized diet, and lower on saturated fats and such. But I don't have a plan. It's more like a place of focus. And I go through that in the course too. That's what the first week is about. It's all about the food. And what's outlined there is how I approach food, okay? It's interesting you bring that up, because the health crisis that brought me to Ayurveda was I struggled with eating disorder. I struggled with anorexia. You wouldn't know that from looking at me right now. But back then, I went through a serious anorexia crisis that nearly cost me my life. So to come back from that, I found balance through Ayurveda. And I'm also an intuitive eating counselor. And so I practice an intuitive approach. I listen to my body, and I respect what my body's telling me. And that's been a long healing journey. But I look at foods in a certain way. I look at foods as prana foods. So there's some foods that when I eat them, they give me energy, they taste good, I enjoy them, they feel good in my body, and they leave me with a sense of well-being. Those are like prana foods. Those are foods that I emphasize, okay? And then there's neutral foods where it's like, They taste yummy. They don't have a necessarily negative impact on my health, but they also don't like really energize me or give me happy tummy. All right. Prana foods give me happy tummy. That's when I eat that food, and then afterwards it's like, you know, when you're eating it, you're kind of like dancing in your chair because you're like, oh, that's so good. And you're like, I hit the spot. That was perfect. Just what I wanted. Those are prana foods. Okay. And then I have regressive foods. Okay. So regressive foods are the foods that you eat them and they may taste good in the moment. You may crave it. You know, it's a bit of false contentment. You desire it, things like candy, you know, stuff like that. But it makes you feel like crap. Okay. It siphons your energy. It gives you the blargs, you know, it causes digestive disturbances. It just doesn't make you feel your best. And those, of course, you should have minimally. But I think that once you lift all restrictions and you say, hey, you know, you can have whatever you want, but do be mindful about the nutrient value of that in terms of, I'm not talking calories and fat grams and all that, because when you go through healing from eating disorder, they move you away from that. All right. So, and I've been in recovery for a long time. Okay. Because that came about for me when I was 22. Okay. 22 years old. So it's been a long time for me that I've been in recovery. And I'll never go back to that ever again. All right. And I had the backlash experience, the opposite side of the experience, because through the anorexia crisis, it destroyed my digestion. I lost a lot of bone mass. Okay. I was 22 years old and I had a nurse practitioner did my bone density scanning. She said, oh my gosh, I've never seen this in all the years I've been a nurse, but you have the bone density of being like an 80-year-old woman on the verge of osteoporosis. And that's the thing about, you lose bone density, you don't ever get that back. So all I can do is preserve the bone I have. Okay. It destroyed my metabolism. You know, I ended up having a thyroid issue. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So, you know, it did a lot of damage. It did a lot of damage. And I went through, you know, I went through my healing, you know, I went through the medical route. You know, I worked with a dietitian who specialized in eating disorder. I went through therapy. I went to support groups. I did all the work. I went really deep into the belly of the beast with that one. And yeah, it's really intense. It's really intense. But, you know, what do you learn through that process? It's not about the food at all. It really isn't. It's about everything else. It was covering up. And I really needed to move through that. So, no, I don't have a specific way of eating. I will just say that I listen to my body. I eat when I'm hungry. I stop when I'm comfortably full. And I do my best to be present with my meals. Am I perfect? No. I mean, sometimes I'm a human being. So sometimes I'll eat distracted, and sometimes I'll just nosh on something for the sake of noshing on it. But I'm always conscious of it. And I'm always aware when I have an episode like that, where it's like, you know, you're not really hungry. You know, it might be enjoyable to eat that, but it's not going to resolve what's really coming up. So I know for me, you know, the emotions are very much interchangeable with that. And I did struggle with eating disorder from a very young age. From the time I was 7, you know, up until, you know, it's like 22 years old is when I had my big crisis. And that was really serious. And then after that, I've been in recovery since. So I don't impose rules because that can cause a lot of backlash. And I've ended up having the opposite experience. It's kind of a trip. I put on a lot of weight after my anorexia crisis. So then I got to experience the opposite side of the spectrum because my body was just like in rebellion. It's like, you know what, screw you. And in fact, it's interesting. If you go to like an anorexia support group, you will see that a lot of people in that support group are heavy. And it's because of that. It does so much damage to your body. This will work really well for you for gallbladder, because the kapha cleanse is about, you know, really clearing out the gallbladder and the liver. It helps a lot with that. So check it out, okay? Check it out. Even if you don't apply it, you know, like, you know, full bore, you can still take elements from it. It will really benefit you. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It'll help with that. Check it out. Check it out. Yeah. There's so much damage. There's so much damage. It's hard for you to lose weight. Well, this is what I was going to tell you. Okay. So I put on like a lot of weight. In fact, it was kind of scary for me when I went through recovery. Within the first month of going through recovery, once I finally was able to like put weight on, because it took me, I was like gorging. I felt like it was gorging, okay? After my crisis, I felt like I was gorging, and it took me like 3 months of like gorging to put on like 5 pounds. It was crazy. And I dipped down way, way, way too low. I was at like 89 pounds. Okay. I'm 5'7.5". So that's super serious. I really shouldn't be here. And that's how bad it got. Like felt like I was eating all the time with what they put me on. And it took me 3 months to put on 5 pounds. But this thing happened. After about the 3-month mark, I got totally jaundiced, and all of my energy just drained from me. I was exhausted. I felt sick all the time. My skin was just, I was jaundiced. I was yellow. And it's because my liver was just like, screw you. Now, with that, I gained about 50 pounds in a month. And from there, it was just like this steady thing. It didn't matter what I did. My body was just like in a state of rebellion. I put on so much weight. And then I really got to experience what it was like to be morbidly obese. So I've seen, you know, both sides of the scale, so to speak. And that was a huge healing journey for me too, because it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, you know, but I did it to myself. And that was the hardest part, you know, I did it to myself. Yeah, I have released, it happened over a long period of time, but I have released through intuitive eating, okay, over 150 pounds, and I have maintained it. It's been, gosh, at this point, it's been like 15 years that I've maintained that. So never gained it back. Okay. But I still have, you know, added weight on my body that I'm ready to release. And I'm ready to get focused with that for sure. But I can't force it off. You know what I'm saying? But I can get more mindful about, just like, for me, it's about the exercise, moving my body and late night eating, you know. Late night eating isn't good for me, because it's like, that's when my digestion is needing to, you know, go through its detoxification process, all those digestive organs, and it really just doesn't do well for me. Yeah, it was good. It took a long time though. I mean, that took me to drop all that weight. It took me like probably a period of 10 years, you know. Took me about 10 years. But that's why I don't diet or have a specific way of eating. I just started focus on my prana foods. And that requires me to be really connected to my body and really be in my physical experience, which isn't easy, okay, as you well know, because if you've struggled with those issues, you know, that everything that you need to, and really it's for any healing process, I believe, you know, especially of anything having to do with trauma or, you know, an emotional or mental variety, is the need to learn how to be present with discomfort, you know. And that's what you learn. That's what you learn in recovery, is how to be present with the discomfort. So yeah, I'm about to focus on that though. I am ready to get the rest off, because last time I'd seen my osteopath, she told me that, she's like, you know, your bone frame is just too small, and it's really great that you've had all this success, but now it's time to get the rest off, because I have a problem with, you know, I can have, like, my hip goes out a lot, you know. I deal with some structural issues because I have hypermobility. And then on top of it, you know, too much weight on my frame. So it causes me like some problems just with pain issues in my body. So she said I need to get the rest off. And I'm like, well, this is tricky because I can't force my body, you know. I can't force it. I know I'll never go back to that place, you know, but I'm not going to go and go down that road again, and, you know, being too rigid or structured with it, because I know my propensity for it, you know. That's the thing. Not everybody who goes on a diet will develop eating disorder. It's it's something that's like a genetic component. It's you're hardwired differently, you know. And they find it's really common in families that have alcoholic bloodlines, which I thought was really interesting. So I've done a lot of study on it. I've heard a lot of people say positive things about lion's mane. I'm not a big mushroom person myself. I don't know. I'm just like, no, no fungus for me. It's not my thing, but I've heard a lot of people say that they found it's really helpful. I've really found that the biggest key is, you know, again, learning to be comfortable with discomfort, not avoiding what you're feeling emotionally, getting some regular exercise and having it be exercise that you actually enjoy, you know, not punishing, exercise you really enjoy. So you can find pleasure in it and you'll stay consistent with it. And, and yeah, you know, just really listening to my body, not eating according to like an outside authority, but eating according to my hunger signals and eating foods that sound good to my body. And so it's really kind of cool. I'm glad you brought this in because this is what I cover in the first week of the course. I developed something called Ayurvedic intuitive eating. I was trained as an intuitive eating counselor by Evelyn Triboli and Elise Rush, who wrote the book Intuitive Eating. They developed this method. And I was trained by them, and they have, you know, the steps of intuitive eating all outlined. The final step, step 10, is gentle nutrition. But I've kind of developed a different way of approaching that. I actually put gentle nutrition at the beginning because what I found in my own struggles with eating disorder and adapting to intuitive eating was that it makes a lot more sense to come from a place of dealing with that rigidity around diet to move into gentle nutrition on at the outset than it does to make it a free-for-all, lift all restrictions, which can be a very scary place for somebody who struggles with eating disorder. And in fact, can kind of have them ping-ponging back and forth between periods of restriction and then overindulgence, and it just can court other problems. So I developed a way to kind of combine the wisdom of Ayurveda and with the dosha types with intuitive eating and putting gentle nutrition at the front of the process instead of the last step. And I found that's super effective. So it can be very helpful, you know, and kapha is about releasing, you know, releasing the heaviness. So if you have, you know, weight that you're needing to release from your body, that's what this is for. You know, kapha is what accumulates as excess weight on the body. Yeah. And there's recipes. There's recipes too, you know, so check it out. All right. Well, I think that's about it. It was kind of like a meandering live drop-in today, but it feels good. And so thank you for dropping in with me, and look forward to all of you checking out, you know, the replay that come to it later, and go ahead and bring your comments in on the comments section, and I'll be sure to respond to them. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask any questions. And I do want to just take a moment to thank the newest members that we have here at Broad Coven. Thank you to Jennifer Vaturis, who showed up earlier, and also my sister, Ruthie. I call her Lucky, and she has her own YouTube channel called Ruthie's Potion, which is really cool. She does all kinds of neat stuff. I think she's a very creative person, so check it out. But and thank you to all the other members, and thank you to everybody who showed up. Oh, I love dropping in with you too. I love doing this stuff. This like community drop in where yeah, we'll do a little cards, we do a little talk, you know, we bring some ideas in and just have a drop in where we all can connect with each other and have a conversation. So I was happy to have you all show up, those of you that were able to make it and drop in with me. I appreciate all of you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. And yeah, I just look forward to growing as a community and wish us a very productive week. And let's move a lot of the roadblocks and the stuff that's in our way so we can move forward in a more empowered way, free and clear of all the stuff from the past cycle that's been holding us back. And I look forward to growing with all of you. Okay. Take care. Have a beautiful day. And again, I'll pin in the comments those resources so you know how to find them. All right. See you soon. I'll be back tomorrow with another live. I don't know what we'll do. We'll do it on the fly. It'll be sometime between 11 and 12. Okay. Sometime in that 11th hour. Take care. Enjoy.